because the Smithsonian has now removed Trump from the impeachment exhibit in the American History Museum.
Forget everything you heard yesterday. Donald Trump is not resigning. He is not admitting defeat, and he certainly is not going quietly into the night. At 2:00 a.m. this morning, the political world was set on fire when Trump posted a declaration of total war on Truth Social aimed directly at his own party. The post read, "I won't quit. Rhinos will regret this betrayal. I will fight these traitors to the end." In just a few hours, that post racked up over 65 million views, signaling that the former president is ready to burn the House down rather than leave it. This explosive defiance comes immediately after Speaker Mike Johnson reportedly went to Trump in private to beg him to resign. Johnson's message was blunt. Resignation is the only way to save the Republican Party from total annihilation. He warned Trump that if he stays, Republicans will lose the House tomorrow. Trump's response was a categorical no. He is daring his own party to remove him by force. And as a result, Washington, D.C. has entered a state of complete, unprecedented meltdown.
Look, there is so much bitter anti-Trump feeling. I mean, you showed it in your previous segment where you have Elizabeth Warren, who's getting what she asked for, and she still has to attack Trump.
Impeachment is no longer a potential outcome. It is happening. The House of Representatives is scheduled to vote on January 12th, 2026, just 3 days from now. By refusing to step aside, Trump has guaranteed that this will be the ugliest, most divisive, and most consequential vote in American history. Trump's 2 a.m. post is a massive turning point. Just 24 hours ago, there was a cryptic message that led many to believe he was preparing to accept reality and step down. But in hindsight, that may have been a moment of temporary weakness, or more likely a classic piece of Trumpian psychological warfare designed to make his enemies lower their guard before he came back swinging even harder. He has now drawn a line in the sand, specifically calling out rhinos, Republicans in name only. This is a direct shot at Speaker Johnson, the Republicans who voted for impeachment in the Judiciary Committee.
Everything, as has been said here, everything is on the line in the midterms of 2026, and we have much more to do. But if we lose the House majority, the radical left, as you've already heard, is going to impeach President Trump. They're going to create absolute chaos.
And the 40 Freedom Caucus members who are currently threatening a mass resignation. Trump's message is clear. If you aren't with me, you are a traitor, and I will fight you until the bitter end. The math behind Speaker Johnson's ultimatum is what makes this situation so desperate. Currently, Republicans hold 217 seats to the Democrats' 215, a razor-thin 2-seat majority, with Marjorie Taylor Greene and Doug LaMalfa having already resigned.
I've always represented the common American man and woman as a member of the House of Representatives, which is why I've always been despised in Washington, D.C., and just never fit in.
And 40 more Freedom Caucus members holding signed resignation letters. The GOP is on the verge of a structural collapse. If even a fraction of those members walk away, Hakeem Jeffries becomes the Speaker of the House immediately. Under a Democratic speakership, H.R. 353 would move to a floor vote instantly, pass, and head to the Senate for a conviction that would remove Trump from office permanently. Johnson tried to explain to Trump that a voluntary resignation would allow Vice President J.D. Vance to take over, giving the party a chance to reset and avoid a total wipeout.
Federal Judge Tanya Chutkan has taken an unprecedented step tonight involving Donald Trump. Less than 6 hours ago, she issued a formal criminal referral to the House of Representatives, and it marks the first time a sitting federal judge has ever directly triggered impeachment proceedings against a former president facing active prosecution.
Trump's refusal to accept this strategic retreat has effectively trapped the Republican Party in a suicide pact. The momentum for impeachment is reaching a fever pitch. The Judiciary Committee already passed the articles with a 24-15 vote, which included 7 Republican yes votes. That is a significant jump from the initial procedural hurdles, proving that the Republican wall is crumbling. The floor vote scheduled for this Sunday, January 12th, is being treated as a national emergency session. Democrats are moving with lightning speed to strike, while public anger is at its peak, and while nearly 300,000 protesters are filling the streets of the Capitol demanding Trump's removal.
But where you see these cars coming now, last hour that was not the case. Many of these protesters were actually in the street blocking, or at the very least confronting, vehicles that were either coming out or into that federal facility.
Based on the current internal shifting, we could see 20 to 30 House Republicans voting to impeach on Sunday. If that happens, the articles go to the Senate with overwhelming bipartisan momentum, making a conviction, once thought impossible, suddenly look like a statistical probability. The tension within the Freedom Caucus is unbearable. These members are caught in an impossible vice. If they stay and vote no on impeachment, they are tied forever to a president accused of ordering ICE to kill American citizens and covering up the evidence. If they vote yes, they face the wrath of the MAGA base and certain primary challenges. This is why resignation has become the third option, an escape hatch that allows them to leave the building without making a choice that destroys their future. However, their exit would hand the keys of the kingdom to the Democrats. As we come on the air, the nation is watching a deeply divided moment in history. The protests, which have now surpassed 300,000 people, have led to a massive National Guard deployment. This is no longer a series of peaceful marches. It has devolved into a confrontational crisis. There have been reports of over 50 officers injured, attacks on federal buildings, and widespread vandalism of ICE facilities. Some cities are reaching riot levels not seen in years. This isn't January 6th. This time it is the political left demanding accountability and the immediate removal of a president they view as a clear and present danger. If Trump continues to force this process through a trial rather than resigning, the violence in the streets is almost guaranteed to escalate. Adding to Trump's legal jeopardy is a looming contempt deadline from Judge Mehta. As the federal judge overseeing the litigation regarding the ICE shootings, Mehta has ordered the administration to produce the unedited raw body cam footage of Renee Nicole Good's death. The administration has tried to release edited versions, but the judge has demanded the full, untampered truth by tomorrow, January 10th. If the footage isn't produced, officials will be held in criminal contempt, leading to potential arrests and massive fines. If the footage is released, it likely contains the smoking gun evidence of agents planting evidence or supervisors ordering a cover-up. Either way, Trump loses. The political reality is equally grim. Trump's approval rating has cratered to 36%, a level lower than Richard Nixon's during the height of the Watergate scandal. This is catastrophic for any modern president, let alone one facing impeachment. Republicans in swing districts are looking at these numbers and realizing that defending Trump is a political death sentence. They are being forced to choose between loyalty to a sinking ship or their own political survival. Trump's defiance guarantees that the end will be ugly. Had he resigned, he could have framed it as a noble sacrifice for the country. By fighting, he ensures that his legacy will be defined by a scorched earth struggle that damages the party and the country for generations. To understand the demographic shift, consider that Trump's approval among suburban women has plummeted to 22%, and his support among independent voters is now at a historic low of 18%. Even more alarming for the GOP is the internal polling, showing that 15% of self-identified MAGA Republicans believe he should step down for the sake of the country. These concrete numbers explain why moderate Republicans are fleeing. The Judiciary Committee hearing from 2 days ago provided the fuel for this fire. ICE whistleblowers gave chilling testimony about Trump personally ordering aggressive quotas that led to the fatal encounter with Renee Nicole Good. Video evidence surfaced appearing to show agents planting a weapon after the fact to justify the shooting. Constitutional scholars then laid out a compelling case for why this constitutes a fundamental abuse of power and obstruction of justice. The 7 Republicans who broke ranks in committee were just the beginning. The math in the Senate is the final piece of the puzzle. While House impeachment requires a simple majority, Senate conviction requires a 2/3 majority, 67 votes. With Democrats holding roughly 49 seats, They need 18 or 19 Republicans to cross the aisle. In any other year, that would be impossible. But with 300,000 people in the streets, a 36% approval rating, and video evidence of a cover-up, the calculation for Republican senators like Mitt Romney, Lisa Murkowski, and Susan Collins is changing. They are asking themselves if they can survive a 2026 or 2028 election if they are the ones who voted to acquit a man the public has already convicted. Sunday's vote is the most important moment of Donald Trump's entire political life. The House will convene in an emergency session, and H.Res. 353 will be brought to the floor. We expect hours of intense emotional debate. Democrats will play the videos and read the whistleblower testimony. Republicans will be split. Some will continue the witch hunt narrative, but others will deliver historic speeches explaining why they can no longer defend the leader of their party. After the electronic voting concludes, we expect to see 230 to 240 yes votes. Trump will likely be watching this in real time, lashing out on social media in a meltdown that could dwarf his previous outbursts. We are looking at a timeline where the trial begins around January 20th, and a verdict is reached by early February. Trump could be out of the White House in less than 30 days. In the meantime, the 25th Amendment remains a break glass in case of emergency option for the cabinet. If they decide his social media meltdowns and attacks on his own party indicate he is mentally unfit to serve, they can bypass the trial entirely. Economically, the country is feeling the strain. Markets hate this level of instability. The stock market is dropping, bond yields are fluctuating, and businesses are holding back on investments as they prepare for a worst-case scenario. This economic decline only feeds back into Trump's unpopularity, creating a vicious cycle that accelerates the calls for his removal. What should you watch for in the coming days? First, the vote count on Sunday. If the number of Republicans voting yes hits 30, it's game over for Trump's influence. Second, look for any resignations on Saturday night from the Freedom Caucus. Third, watch the tone of Senate Republicans on Monday morning. And finally, watch the streets. If the protests grow to 500,000 people, the political pressure will become an irresistible force. Trump has burned his last bridge by attacking Mike Johnson. He has alienated his most loyal defenders and turned his own party into his primary enemy. This is history in the making, a test of whether American democracy can hold its highest office accountable. The House vote on Sunday will be a definitive moment of reckoning. For the first time, we will see exactly how many members of the president's own party are willing to state on the record that his actions are indefensible. This isn't just about one man. It's about the office of the presidency and the limits of executive power. If the House passes these articles with a significant bipartisan majority, it sends a message to the world that the United States remains a nation of laws, not of individuals. The trial that follows in the Senate will be the most watched event in history, featuring evidence that has been kept under seal for months. The role of the National Guard cannot be understated. Their presence in the Capitol is a physical reminder of the fragility of the current situation. While their primary mission is to maintain order and protect federal property, their deployment also signals to the administration that the era of unrestrained domestic enforcement is over. The eyes of the world are on Washington, and the pressure on every single legislator is immense. They aren't just voting for their party, they are voting for their place in history. We are also hearing reports that certain members of the cabinet are in constant communication with each other, monitoring the president's communications for any sign of a total break from reality. The threshold for the 25th Amendment is high, but the war on the party declared at 2:06 a.m. may have pushed several members over the edge. If the vice president and a majority of the cabinet act, the transition of power could happen in hours, not weeks. This is the shadow track that is running alongside the public impeachment process. Regardless of the outcome, the Republican Party will never be the same. The betrayal Trump spoke of is actually the sound of a political institution trying to save itself from a leader it can no longer control. The civil war within the GOP is now out in the open, and the casualties will be the seats they lose in the House and Senate. The 2026 midterms were already looking difficult for the party, but this crisis has turned them into a potential landslide for the opposition. Stay with us as we track the movement of the 40 Freedom Caucus members. Their decision to stay and vote or to quit and walk away will determine the speakership and the immediate future of the impeachment articles. We are receiving updates every hour and will bring them to you as soon as they are verified. This is the most dangerous and exciting time in American politics, and we are honored to be your source for the truth. Keep your notifications on, and we will keep you informed. To truly understand the gravity of this moment, we must look at the specific charges being leveled against the president. Article 1, abuse of power, centers on the allegation that Trump used federal resources, specifically ICE personnel, to execute a series of targeted operations that resulted in the death of a United States citizen, Renee Nicole Good. The claim is that these operations were not motivated by public safety, but by a desire to create a spectacle of strength for political gain. This is a direct assault on the concept of due process and the protection of civil liberties. If proven, it represents the highest form of high crimes and misdemeanors. Article 2, obstruction of Congress, relates to the administration's refusal to comply with subpoenas for documents and testimony regarding those very operations. By ordering the destruction of evidence and instructing aides to ignore legal summons, Trump has attempted to place the executive branch above the oversight of the legislative branch. This is the very definition of a constitutional crisis. The evidence presented in the Judiciary Committee was nothing short of staggering. Whistleblowers from within the Department of Homeland Security described an environment of fear and lawlessness, where agents were told to get results at any cost. They spoke of unwritten quotas and a directive to ignore standard operating procedures when dealing with problematic areas. The video of Renee Nicole Good's death, while harrowing, was only a piece of the puzzle. It was the subsequent internal communications, emails, and encrypted messages that showed a concerted effort to manipulate the narrative. The discovery that agents were allegedly told to find or place a weapon at the scene to justify lethal force has sent shockwaves through the legal community. This is not just a policy disagreement, it is a criminal conspiracy at the heart of the government. As we look toward the Senate trial, the role of the Chief Justice will be critical. Unlike a standard trial, the Chief Justice's role in an impeachment is to preside over the proceedings and ensure that the rules of the Senate are followed. However, the true power lies with the 100 senators who act as both judge and jury. The question of whether witnesses will be allowed is already a point of contention. Democrats are demanding that high-ranking officials like Pam Bondi and Kash Patel be forced to testify under oath. Republicans are split, with some wanting to end the trial as quickly as possible and others realizing that a trial without witnesses will be viewed as a cover-up by the American public. The pressure on Senate Majority Leader John Thune to allow a full and fair trial is mounting as even some members of his own caucus express concern about the integrity of the process. The political stakes for J.D. Vance are also enormous. As the vice president, he is the first in line of succession should Trump be removed. Vance has remained largely silent during this crisis, attempting to walk a fine line between loyalty to Trump and his own political survival. If he appears too eager for the presidency, he risks alienating the MAGA base. If he defends Trump too aggressively, he risks being tied to the scandals that are currently sinking the administration. His every move is being scrutinized by political analysts and fellow Republicans alike. Should Trump be removed, Vance would inherit a fractured party and a country in the midst of a historic crisis. His ability to heal those wounds and provide a path forward would be the ultimate test of his leadership. The economic impact of this crisis is beginning to manifest in real time. The Dow Jones Industrial Average has seen its worst week in years as investors flee to safety amidst the political turmoil. International markets are also feeling the ripple effects as the stability of the U.S. dollar, the world's reserve currency, is questioned. Economists warn that a prolonged impeachment trial and the threat of civil unrest could lead to a significant slowdown in consumer spending and a pullback in corporate investment. The uncertainty is the primary driver of this decline. Business leaders who once praised the administration's deregulation efforts are now quietly expressing concern that the breakdown of the rule of law is a far greater threat to the economy than any regulation could be. Furthermore, the international reaction to this crisis has been one of deep concern. America's allies in NATO and the G7 are watching with disbelief as the leader of the free world declares war on his own government. There are worries about the continuity of U.S. foreign policy and the potential for adversaries like Russia or China to exploit this internal distraction. Diplomatic cables obtained by our sources suggest that world leaders are already preparing for a post-Trump era, reaching out to Vice President Vance and congressional leaders to ensure that the global order remains intact. The image of the United States as a stable, predictable partner has been severely tarnished, and it will take years, if not decades, to rebuild that trust. Back in the streets of Washington, the atmosphere is electric. The 300,000 protesters are not just a number. They are a diverse coalition of students, veterans, labor leaders, and ordinary citizens who have had enough. They are being supported by a network of grassroots organizations that are providing food, medical aid, and legal assistance. The resolve of these protesters is being tested by freezing temperatures and a heavy police presence, yet they remain. Their message, "No man is above the law," is plastered on every surface in the Capitol. The National Guard, while present, has so far remained in a defensive posture, but the potential for a confrontation remains high as the Sunday vote approaches. The 40 Freedom Caucus members are currently in a secure location discussing their next move. Sources close to the group say that the pressure from their own families and constituents is the primary driver of the resignation talk. They are hearing from people who supported Trump in 2024, but are now horrified by the latest revelations. The realization that they could be the 40 people who let the Democrats take the House is weighed against the fear of being the 40 people who defended a murderer. It is a psychological burden that is taking a visible toll on many of these legislators. Their decision will be the first major domino to fall this weekend, and it will set the stage for everything that follows. In the midst of this, Mike Johnson's speakership is hanging by a thread. By going to Trump and asking for his resignation, Johnson has effectively burned his bridges with the hardline MAGA wing of the party. He is now being attacked by the very people he spent years trying to please. His gamble that he could save the party by removing its head has so far failed, and he is now in a political no man's land. If the 40 members resign, he loses his gavel. If they stay and vote no, he remains the leader of a party that is increasingly viewed as a defense team for the president. Johnson's legacy will be defined by these few days, and it appears he is prepared for the end of his speakership. The legal team representing Renee Nicole Good's family is also active, filing a series of civil lawsuits that are running parallel to the impeachment process. These lawsuits are seeking millions in damages, but more importantly, they are seeking discovery, the right to access internal government documents. The judge's order to release the unedited body cam footage is a direct result of this litigation. If the administration continues to defy these orders, we could see a scenario where federal marshals are sent to seize the evidence. This would be a physical confrontation between the judicial and executive branches that has not been seen in over a century. Trump's 2 a.m. post was not just a message to the politicians. It was a call to arms for his supporters. There is a palpable fear that the war he declared could transition from social media to the real world. Law enforcement agencies are monitoring online forums for any signs of coordinated violence directed at members of Congress or the Capitol building. The memory of January 6th is fresh in everyone's mind, and the security protocols in place are designed to prevent a repeat of those events. However, the decentralized nature of modern political movements makes them difficult to predict. The rhetoric of betrayal and traitors is precisely the kind of language that has led to violence in the past. As we conclude this report, we want to remind you that the next 72 hours will be the most historic in our lifetime. The House vote on Sunday will either be the beginning of the end of the Trump presidency or the beginning of a new, even more chaotic chapter in American history. The Pump Politics team will be on the ground in the halls of Congress and in the streets, providing you with real-time updates. We are committed to the truth, even when it is uncomfortable. We are committed to accountability, even when it is dangerous. Thank you for trusting us with your time and your attention. Please share this video with everyone you know. The public needs to understand the stakes. The vote on Sunday is not just about Donald Trump. It is about the future of the republic. It is about whether the system created by the founders still has the strength to correct itself when an executive goes rogue. It is about whether the phrase, "we the people," still carries any weight in a world of corporate media and polarized politics. We will see you on Sunday for the live vote. It is a moment of reckoning that has been years in the making. The countdown has begun. The world is watching, and history is being written in real time. Stay vigilant, stay informed, and stay tuned to Pump Politics. To recap the key points, Trump has rejected all calls for resignation, choosing instead to declare war on the traitors within his own party. The math in the House is currently at a tipping point, with 40 Freedom Caucus members threatening to resign and hand control to Hakeem Jeffries. The impeachment vote is set for an emergency Sunday session, with momentum building for a significant bipartisan yes vote. The 25th Amendment and Senate conviction remain the final hurdles for Trump's removal. Meanwhile, the streets are filled with hundreds of thousands of Americans demanding justice, and the National Guard is standing by. Tomorrow's contempt deadline for the Renee Good footage will be the next major flashpoint. The legal, political, and social walls are closing in on the White House. We will continue to track the specific crosstabs of the latest approval polling, particularly among suburban voters in key swing states like Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin. Early indicators suggest that the GOP defection is not limited to Texas. It is a national trend that could reshape the entire political landscape. We will also be looking into the reports of a secret meeting between Mike Johnson and Senate Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries regarding a potential power-sharing agreement should the resignations occur. This is a fast-moving story with immense implications. Thank you once again for your incredible support. Every like, every share, and every subscription allows us to keep fighting for the truth.